Philadelphia is steep in broadcast history. From the early pioneering days of broadcasting in the 1920s to today, Philadelphia has always been at the forefront. The Delaware Valley has been home to some of the best local programming in the country, starting with the early soap operas and children's shows to pioneering the best news formats in the country. Much of it all began right here. From radio announcers to television personalities, cameramen to directors, these were the broadcasters that burned up the airwaves. These were the pioneers of Philadelphia broadcasting.
Hello and welcome to the Pioneers of Philadelphia's Broadcasting. I'm Kathy Gandolfo, and with me today is a woman who helped to transform daytime television, creating some of the most popular soap operas. Her name is Agnes Nixon. Mrs. Nixon, so nice to be here with you today. This is really fun for me because I, of course, watched All My Children and One Life to Live, and of course there was Loving. What was it like for you to create those shows and to create those characters?
Well, it was fascinating. I think I am a writer, and that means I'm fascinated. People fascinate me, and so you must know people. You say to yourself, wonder whatever will happen to that person. I found it fascinating to try to decide what's going to happen and to write it in this daytime serial, which I loved doing.
Mm-hmm. How did you come up with the characters? How did you craft them in your mind?
Well, I think first you meet someone who you crafted what you see in life. There's nothing is stranger than real life. You know, Kathy. I mean, so but what you need an interesting person and a situation which is also interesting and complicated from other people by other situations, and so then you just get I don't know with heads or writers like me have. Mm-hmm. We just think about it, and then it's suddenly you know what you wanted to do.
You know, I was going to ask you, one of your most popular characters, I think, was Erica Kane, of course, yes. Played by Susan Lucci.
Wonderful.
She was, people loved her, they hated her, she was a vixen, she was vulnerable. She was a character, a multifaceted character. Is that what made her popular? Did people identify with her?
I think when I was creating Erica, I said to myself, I'm a young woman who dares to say to her mother what other girls don't dare say, you know. And so that's, and of course Susan is such a terrific actress. Mm-hmm. She was great, but so the interesting thing about Erica, yes, they hated her at some point, but also they knew she's suffered a lot herself, mm-hmm. which she brought on herself. Right. But somehow the audience were willing to forgive what she did, and she was great fun.
She was really. Was she your favorite character? Did you have a favorite character that you created?
Every character I wrote, when I was writing that character, he or she was my favorite. Mm-hmm. I mean, because that's someone asked me why did you want to be a writer instead of an actress? I said, a writer plays all the parts.
A lot of people don't realize that you were an actress.
Well, there for 15 minutes.
For 15 minutes.
Not very good, believe me. No, I did a few things, but writing.
That's what you loved,
Oh,
writing.
yes. Oh,
yes. There were a lot of famous people whose careers were launched on daytime television.
Yes. Well, there were famous who played, David Canary, who played Adam Chandler, and his twin brother, Stuart. He played in Bonanzas, the youngest brother.
Oh, right.
Was it so? And Grace Kelly was in.
Really? Grace Kelly?
She's particularly in the nighttime shows, but I never really knew too many of them. But see, one of our great fan was Carol Burnett.
Oh, yes.
So she's on the show. She plays part on the show.
Is that right?
Just because she wanted to.
Uh-huh.
Carol, she was such a fan of all my children that she made one of her staff email her what had happened in the day children. The man getting the emails said to her, Carol's husband, I don't think we should tell Miss Burnett what happened on the show. Jenny died.
Oh.
And so Carol went to him. She said, it's just a soup.
That's something. People wanted to be on your show, and then a lot of people, I guess, their careers were launched on the soap operas and went on to Hollywood and motion pictures.
Yes, but I know more of the names of people who was very well known and wanted to be on. One that you have maybe heard about a gentleman named Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett, yes.
He's on 8 different episodes with their Erica, and it was a great fun.
Yeah, I'll bet. You know, I have to ask you about a word that you would occasionally use, sizzle. Sell the sizzle. I think no one would dispute that soap operas can be hot. And we have a lot of steamy scenes, if you would. But I think it's also fair to say that these are not shows just about sexual relationships. They're about real people relationships. And over the years, you introduced some topics that were previously taboo on daytime television,
I think.
like abortion, homosexuality, alcoholism, drug addiction, racial relations. Was that art imitating life, or were you doing a little teaching there? Were you trying to educate the public?
I hope that the audience will, in some cases, examine their prejudices. For instance, we had all my children. I had the first American romance between two African Americans.
Right.
And so, I mean, people said, you better not do that. But I said, people have to realize this is to America today. And so, the love story of Jesse and Angie was the most popular as any show story on there.
Wow.
And so And the same thing with homosexuality. I knew that we had to do it to make people realize that is a right. People has a right to live their want to do, but I knew that the homophobes would turn off the set if we show a woman a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
So then I thought, not if she's Erica's daughter,
Yeah.
because the audience wouldn't like to turn it off, but then say, I wonder how Erica would react. This and Erica, we had Erica react just as we thought she was horrified when her daughter said, Mom, I'm a lesbian. However, we had Erica change when she saw her, how wrong she was. And hopefully many of the audience followed
Right.
Erica travels and came to defend her life,
Mm-hmm.
to accept it. And of course, that was, I mean, it was many, I got so many wonderful letters from women who were lesbian and said, if I just could have seen your show when I was 14, 15. I mean, I couldn't never understand how people would be so blind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the same thing I did on One Life, was anyway, we saw the One Life, you know, I thought, this woman, why we showed her, why a woman of African American heritage who passed for white, and because she did this, it was because she was an actress, she couldn't get a job, and so she decided, she left her mother, changed her name, and so she was on the show had her own story, and her mother, she was an African woman, lady who was head of a cleaning department at the hospital. So one day, we never saw them in a scene together. We just knew that as their own personal story. And one day, the daughter, whose name was, in her real life, was Clara. She was going into an apartment to see a friend, and the mother, whose name was Sadie, came to empty trash in the incinerator, and they saw each other, and they came together, and Sadie says, Clara, and this actress said, Mama. And, I mean, I think it was a great actor. So many, for instance, I had Clara say to her mother, I know how you felt about me. I didn't ask you to be born. God knows I didn't ask to be this color. But I remember when you were walking down the street holding my hand, and someone said to you, who's the white girl? Are you taking care of? And you dropped my hand, Mama. And so the wonderful letters of people.
How Was it difficult to get some of these storylines past the company executives or the sponsors?
No, you see, I had taken, before all my children went on, a Procter & Gamble had a show that was failing on NBC called Another Word, and so ABC saw how the rating was, asked me if Procter & Gamble asked me if I take over Under the World, and so I did, and it became the most popular show on daytime.
Yeah.
So when ABC asked me to do shows, then I said, well, may I do one that's called Life the Way it Is. They said yes. So I didn't have any problem.
Oh, well, that was good. Yeah.
Well,
I wondered about that, if there was some pushing back on some of the subject matters.
No.
No.
Well, I tell you, when we first doing One Life, we could not find an actress to play Carla, and so there was no one who could win the breed yet. It's American Heritage. And when Amanda, ABC said, well, we just cast a dark Italian girl. And I said, no, we won't. He said, but but we have no actors. So that morning, Sunday morning, there was a letter on the entertainment page from Ellen Holland, who had been trying to be an actress. And she the phrase "black is beautiful" was a big saying at that time.
Yes.
So she said her headline to her letter was, "How black do you have to be?" And I couldn't believe it. She was so beautiful. And she was a Shakespearean actress. We called her. She came in the studio next day, and she had that part for 18 years.
18. Wow. So you had a lot to say about the casting.
Oh,
you
yes.
had a great deal to say.
After I didn't see them in the part, it'd be hard to write the cast.
You know, we are sitting in your home here in the main line, suburban Philadelphia, and this was the setting for your soap operas, or at least for All My Children. What made you decide to make that the setting? I mean, why not suburban LA or New York or Chicago?
This is what I knew.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I didn't make, it wasn't with the thought that dreadful things would happen on the main line.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a very nice place to live. One of the actors asked me, how long does it take Pine Valley?
Pine Valley.
And how long does it take to get from Pine Valley to New York? My answer was 2 acts.
That's funny. You know, you certainly have had a storied career, and you had created some wonderful characters. When Erica Kane, of course, Susan Lucci, had been nominated for years and never won that Emmy. It eluded her for many years, and then she finally won. What was that like for you when they finally called her name?
I was thrilled for her. And so, listen, I defended her, let me put it away, as the cast and I went out to California for a press conference, and so one of the reporters asked Susan, how do you feel when you miss, when you don't get Emmy? I spoke out. I said, I think that's a terrible question to ask Susan, but I'd like to give you my answer, how I feel. I said, I think Susan is heard by people who have heard she makes, how much money she makes. I said, why not? But she's so, and a lot of the people on the vote for the act, a lot of them are actors themselves, and there's little jealousies.
Sure.
I said, when they go to vote.
Yes.
So why does she know?
I'm sure that comes into play.
I think
yes.
it has to.
Yeah. How do you see the future of daytime television and soap operas? I have to tell you, of course, after many decades, of course, your soap operas were canceled from daytime television. And in fact, a friend of mine knew I was interviewing you today, and she said, make sure you tell Agnes Nixon that I'm still angry that they took her shows off the air. She was an avid watcher, and she was excited that I was interviewing you today. But are we getting to the point where it's a genre whose time has come and gone, or is there still a bright future for soap operas?
I think that there can be. I don't know. I think one of the main reasons that my two shows were canceled was that certain people at the ABC thought that they wanted to keep the cost of production down, and some insisted that children were too expensive. I don't think. Incidentally, Kathy, I am writing my memoir.
Are you?
Yes.
Oh.
So, and I will say a bit about that.
Tell us a little bit, because I was going to ask you how your body of work is expansive, and how do you want to be remembered? What are the highlights of your career, and how do you want people to remember Agnes Nixon?
Well, I hope that I have entertained them, but also, you see, I think that education can be entertaining, and if we make people think, if anyone would, because all my children can have changed their mind about lesbian, gay life. I feel they remember that. But I mean, I have a whole other part of my life was a mother, a wife and a mother, 4 children.
And 4 children.
That's my biggest part of my life. I was writing that memoir.
Yes. When can we look forward to your memoirs being released?
Nobody. When someone, my daughter Kathy has been helping me. She's wonderful, and she's sort of like my editor teacher was good, not so good, can be improved. Well, so I just hope I get it finished. We have a few more works.
Well, I look forward to that because I'm sure you have you have an interesting tale to tell, no doubt. We've talked about your shows, we've talked about your characters, but you are a legend, and you are in the TV Hall of Fame, the Soap Opera Hall of Fame. You have Emmys and Lifetime Achievement Awards, and the list goes on and on. Of course, you were also an actor, even if it was for 15 minutes. But you have a long and storied career to be proud of. And Agnes Nixon, among your awards, we can now add the Pioneers of Philadelphia Broadcasting Hall of Fame. And we congratulate you for that.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
And thank you anyone who wanted me there. I'm really very, very honored.
Well, we are all honored to have you in the fold.
Thank you.
Our thanks today to Mrs. Agnes Nixon, a true broadcast pioneer. I'm Kathy Gandolfo. Thank you.